Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Gokulananda Radha Gokulananda Shri Radhe Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Gauranitai Patita Pavana Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Bhagavan ki, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ji ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki. Welcome everyone once again. So today we'll discuss from the chapter 10 of the Bhagavad Gita. It's called The Opulence of the Absolute. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is the verse number 2 from the chapter 10, the opulence of the Absolute. Na me viduhu surganaha prabhavana maharshayah aham adirhi devanam maharshinam cha sarvasaha. Na, never. Me, my. Viduhu, no. Suraganaha, the demigods. Prabhavam, origin. Opulences. Na, never. Maharshaya, great sages. Aham, I am. Adi, the origin. He, certainly. Devanam, of the demigods. Maharshinam, of the great sages. Cha, also. Sarvashaha, in all respects. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Neither the hosts of demigods nor the great sages know my origin or opulences, for in every respect, I am the source of the demigods and sages. Purport: as stated in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord. No one is greater than Him. He is the cause of all causes. Here it is also stated by the Lord personally that He is the cause of all the demigods and sages. Even the demigods and great sages cannot understand Krishna. They can understand neither His name nor His personality. So what is the position of the so-called scholars of this tiny planet? No one can understand why this Supreme God comes to earth as an ordinary human being and executes such wonderful, uncommon activities. One should know then that scholarship is not the qualification necessary to understand Krishna. Even the demigods and the great sages have tried to understand Krishna by their mental speculation, and they have failed to do so. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also, it is clearly said that even the great demigods are not able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They can speculate to the limits of their imperfect senses and can reach the opposite conclusion of impersonalism, of something not manifested by the three qualities of material nature, or they can imagine something by mental speculation, but it is not possible to understand Krishna by such foolish speculation. Here the Lord indirectly says that if anyone wants to know the absolute truth, here I am present as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I am the Supreme. One should know this. Although one cannot understand the inconceivable Lord who is personally present, He nonetheless exists. We can actually understand Krishna, who is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, simply by studying His words in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. The conception of God as some ruling power or as the impersonal Brahman can be reached by persons who are in the inferior energy of the Lord. But the personality of Godhead cannot be conceived unless one is in the transcendental position. Because most men cannot understand Krishna in his actual situation, out of His causeless mercy, He descends to show favor to such speculators. Yet despite the Supreme Lord's uncommon activities, these speculators, due to contamination in the material energy, still think that the impersonal Brahman is the Supreme. Only the devotees who are fully surrendered unto the Supreme Lord can understand by the grace of the Supreme Personality that He is Krishna. The devotees of the Lord do not bother about the impersonal Brahman conception of God. Their faith and devotion bring them to surrender immediately unto the Supreme Lord. And out of the causeless mercy of Krishna, they can understand Krishna. No one else can understand Him. So even great sages agree. What is Atma? What is the Supreme? It is He whom we have to worship. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So before we further discuss this purport and verse, we'll invoke the presence and blessings of our spiritual master. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So to begin with the context of this chapter, the previous chapter, chapter 9, was about the most confidential knowledge. Now, the chapter 9 concluded with a very confidential instruction by Krishna, and that's Manmana Bhavmad Bhakta, that engage your mind in always thinking about me, become my devotee. So that was the most confidential knowledge. And now Krishna continues to expand on this confidential knowledge, the essence of this confidential knowledge. And that's called the Raj Vidya Rajaguyam. He further describes his opulences, his potencies, his position. Now one may wonder, why is Krishna talking about his own opulences? Is there a difference when we want to talk about our glories, our opulences, and Krishna when he's talking about his opulences? What do you think could be the reason? Why is he talking about my opulence? So there are several reasons. One is a textual reason. Arjun, who is hearing this message of Bhagavad Gita, he requests Krishna to further explain about the presence of Krishna, his power, his position. This is the request by his devotee, Arjun. And second reason is very circumstantial. Now, Arjun's position is that he has a war to fight immediately at Kurukshetra. And right at the beginning of the war, he has requested Krishna to talk about his opulences. Why is that? One, it exhibits the symptom of a devotee. A devotee in any circumstance wants to hear about the glories of the Lord, so that it's easy for the devotee to remember the Lord, especially in such circumstances here. And two, when he hears the glories, what will happen? It will increase the devotion in the heart, and one can be more inspired to serve. Third reason is universal. Of course, through the example of Arjun, Krishna is giving us the message to remember him all the time. For instance, one of the opulences that Krishna talks about is that anything attractive that we see, it's just a spark of Krishna's splendor. It's just a spark. So his glory, his opulence is 1,000 times more than what we are seeing actually. So when we function in this world, we can actually keep our consciousness elevated, right? While we are engaged in the duties, in the way Arjun has to fight a war, but he is elevating his consciousness by listening this message of Bhagavad Gita. Another question that may come to your mind is, isn't Arjun already a devotee? Why does he need to listen to this? We need to kind of go back to how Arjun was feeling at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita situation. He was saying that his weapons are slipping off his hands. This is the situation of Arjun. He's so overwhelmed looking at the opposite army. And the reason is this army also has not only his relatives, but also such venerable relatives, such endearing personalities worthy of so much respect and love. And when he sees these relatives in the opposing army, how can he even think of killing them? So this is how overwhelmed he is. And what does this do to Arjun? This eclipses his memory. This agony eclipses his memory. He has for a moment lost the sight of his spiritual identity, what to speak of his devotional relationship with Krishna. And this is what happens to us as well. When we are practicing, time and again there's frustration in us that I'm chanting for so many, of course we are not on the platform of chanting purely, but then we still want to see the results immediately. But then this is happening to Arjun as well. When he is in face of such a situation, his memory is also getting eclipsed because of the situation he has to deal with. And third reason is why he still needs to hear, as I already mentioned, because he's a devotee, so he's exhibiting this symptom, this eagerness to listen to the Bhagavad Gita. And another question that might come to our mind is, why Arjun? Arjun's whole family is a family of devotees, Vaishnavas. Why only Arjun has been chosen to deliver this message? Any ideas? Yes. Okay. You needed it the most? Yeah, we're getting there. But remember, Bhim also has to kill. Yeah, but his feeling of overwhelm is there. Okay, yeah. So, the story kind of goes back a little. When Arjun's father, Pandu, King Pandu, he wanted sons. The first son that he wanted, his desire was that this son, my eldest son, should be full of virtues. He should be a very virtuous son. So he invokes the Lord Dharmraj, who was known for distributing virtuous qualities to people. So he invoked Dharmraj and he begot Yudhishthir. Then the second son, he wanted that the second son of mine should be very powerful. And for that reason, he invoked the demigod Vayu. And from Vayu, he got Bhima. Now for the third son, Pandu wanted the third son to be a kind of a balancer. And one very special desire that was in his heart was that this son should be specially favored by God. And this son, he had a complete understanding that the virtue and power will be subordinate to the divine grace. So this is why Arjun was special right from the beginning, because of this desire that his father had. Further, we see that Arjun also had this devotional expertise. He has exhibited this time and again. For instance, when we see that Arjun has to choose between whether he wants the army of Krishna, which is called Narayani, or he wants Krishna on his side. The Arjun has that devotional expertise to choose Krishna. And Duryodhana, on the other hand, goes for the army. And we know the results. What does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? Wherever there is Arjun and Krishna, there is always victory. So this is indicative of who is qualified to be the recipient of the message of Bhagavad Gita. Remember in this verse we were talking about, it's not there. We were talking about that the demigods and sages, even for them it's not possible to know Krishna. This is what the verse for today we have to discuss. And then, if we talk about demigods, they are so intelligent and advanced. What to speak of human beings? Demigods are so intelligent and advanced, and in this verse, Krishna is saying that even they find it difficult to understand Krishna. And now let's talk about the sages. The sages, they are the teachers of demigods. Who is the teacher of the demigods? The sage, Brihaspati. And then again, even sages, they find it difficult to understand Krishna. Now there's this very interesting commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He says that if one argues that the demigods cannot understand Krishna because they are indulged in so much of luxury, so much of attachment to the materialistic things, then one can understand that this argument is not true, because immediately in this verse, what does Krishna say next? that demigods, but as well as sages also. Now, sages are known for being detached. So if our argument is that, okay, demigods could not understand Krishna because of being overly attached, then that argument can be defeated. Because sages are detached, and yet they also cannot understand Krishna. So Krishna says that he descends for this purpose of yada yada hi dharmasya, to establish dharma. But he lives here in this world for 125 years. This was the duration of Krishna being here. 11 years he was in Vrindavan, 18 years he was in Mathura, and 96 years he was in Dwarka. So what after that? How is dharma going to be established once Krishna has left? So it's now in the teachings of Krishna. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, all the teachings of Krishna. That's where Krishna is going to still make up to the promise that he made in Bhagavad Gita. But one may wonder, what's the goal of these teachings? There's this one interesting pastime. There was one guru who instructed his disciple to go to a nearby river and fill the bucket of water. Now this disciple goes to the river, fills the bucket, and then as he's going back to the guru, he finds that the bucket has a lot of holes in it, and the water has drained out of it. So he is apologetic to his guru. He says, I'll go back and again fetch the water. He goes to the river again, and now he makes an endeavor to run really fast to the guru so that the water still stays in the bucket. And again, he fails at that. And after 2-3 attempts, he says, I'm sorry, I'm not able to fulfill your instruction. And then the guru said, what are you doing exactly? He said, I'm going to the river, filling the bucket with the water, coming back to you with the water. He said, but I only told you to fill the bucket with the water. That's it. So here, he was kind of misled. He thought that something else is the goal, whereas the goal for the guru, the simple instruction was the guru wanted the bucket to be cleaned. He knew the bucket had holes. So similarly, we can think that sometimes the goal of these teachings is to memorize all of this and then be the most learned person in the room. And these days, actually, there are books and there are talks about how to be the most interesting person in the room. Interestingly, somebody... So coming back to this, so the goal is actually not to know Krishna, but to love Krishna. But we need these teachings. We sometimes need to memorize these shlokas because we forget. That's our problem. Because of this forgetfulness. With Arjuna, it's happening on the battlefield. With us, it's happening every moment. Right? Another example for this is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling to Sri Rangam, and he came across an illiterate Brahmana. Now this illiterate Brahmana was trying to read the Bhagavad Gita, and everyone around him was laughing at him. At this side, Mahaprabhu spoke to the Brahmana as to, everyone's laughing at you, and you're reading Bhagavad Gita, why is that? He said, they're laughing because I cannot read. But I have to read because this is the instruction of my spiritual master. He said, okay, but why are you crying when you're reading? He said, I'm crying because when I look at the cover page, I see that somebody who is the creator of the whole universe, who is the controller, who is the proprietor of the whole universe, he has taken such a humble position of being a charioteer for the devotee. And that has conquered my heart. I just cannot fathom the love of God for the devotees. Another very poignant example in this regard is when Prahlad Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam is saying to Lord Nrsimhadev. He says, this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 9, Verse 9. Manye dhana bhijana rupa tapaha shrutajas, tejaha prabhava bala purusha buddhi yoga, naradhanya hi bhavanti parasho pumsho, bhaktya tutosho bhagavan gaj yuthapaya. Translation, Prahlad Maharaj continued, one may possess wealth, an aristocratic family, beauty, austerity, education, sensory expertise, luster, influence, physical strength, diligence, intelligence, and mystic yogic power. But I think that even by all of these qualifications, one cannot satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, one can satisfy the Lord simply by devotional service. Gajendra did this, and thus the Lord was satisfied with him. So we go back to the same verse in Bhagavad Gita, wherein Krishna says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati. So for whom is it easy to understand Krishna, to love Krishna, to get closer to Krishna? Bhaktya mam abhijanati, for the devotees. Because they carry the element of love. And every other qualification that we just spoke about, that Prahlad Maharaj mentioned, all of those are devoid of love. So they have absolutely no use. So no speculation, no material qualification, only devotional service. But where does this devotion in heart come from? Who is the giver of this devotion? Srila Prabhupada says the beginning of the spiritual understanding is that we are not this body. And then we go on to understand that we are part and parcel of Krishna. But we have to understand the eternal love for Krishna, where is that coming from? Srimati Radharani, the topmost devotee of Krishna. So even though we are part and parcel of Krishna, but the love for Krishna in our heart comes from the devotees of Krishna. This is why devotee association is so important. So we saw how one symptom was hearing, and Arjuna exhibited that, hearing constantly. Even though Arjuna is already a devotee, even though he has such an urgent situation at hand, still he wants to hear the message of Gita. 2 is the devotee association, because that's where the love, that's where the bhakti comes from. Once Srila Prabhupada pointed out to the picture of Mother Yashoda holding a whipping stick in her hand and Krishna was running. And he pointed out that picture and said, there's this, who do you think is more powerful here? Who is greater than God? Right? So the God is running and Mother Yashoda is holding the whipping stick. So that's the power of the devotee, who becomes even greater than God. And Krishna rejoices in such defeats. This is Krishna's victory in defeat. So we can see that if age is important, then we have the example of Dhruv Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj in front of us, who are such young boys. If knowledge is important, then we see that Gajendra is not reading scriptures before offering the flower to the Lord. If we see that, okay, wealth is important, then we know the example of Sudama, who took so humbly the offering of chipped rice. That's what he took for Krishna. That's it. And then we also know that, okay, if birth is important, then we also look at the example of Vidura, who was the son of a maidservant. So again and again, the Shastras are replete with these examples of these material qualifications and speculation. All of that is really not necessary. And one since we're talking about this verse, wherein particularly Krishna is saying that the demigods and sages find it difficult to understand Krishna, know Krishna, then the most elaborate pastime that I can think of in this regard is Brahma's bewilderment, Brahma Vimohan Leela. So what happens, Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Bhagavan ki Jai. So what happened once was Krishna's friends, they saw a cave-like structure and they were very tempted to go inside and explore that. And that was actually Aghasura. Aghasura was an associate of Kansa. So he was sent by Kansa to take revenge and of course kill Krishna. So his agenda was that, okay, once I lure the boys, the friends of Krishna, Gopas, then ultimately Krishna will come to find them, and then that's when I'll kill Krishna. So this is his understanding, Aghasura's understanding. And Aghasura, it seems like a cave because it's not moving. It's almost like dead. And this is how we also can think of ourselves sometimes. We have such tendencies of these demons also. We are part and parcel of Krishna, but then we have such tendencies. How we are also spiritually dead. This is why we need this reawakening. It's not that it is something unusual or unnatural to us, Krishna consciousness. It is an innate part of us. But it needs to be reawakened because we are lying dead like Aghasura. Like Putana. So Putana, what did she do? She pretended to be a damsel from the heavenly abode, and everyone thought that, wow, she is a damsel from a heavenly abode, and nobody knew that she was actually a demoness. And we also have such tendencies to pretend that we are somebody else. Such Putana complex we also carry. But then Krishna exposes. Krishna also exposes everyone. But at the same time, although Krishna exposes, but also Krishna liberates these demons. And we'll shortly see why. So these Krishna's friends, on the strength of being Krishna's friends, because they have complete faith, whatever will come, Krishna will take care of that. So they enter the mouth of Aghasura. And then Krishna comes and looks for them, and then Krishna rescues them and kills and liberates the demon called Aghasura. And Gopas, when they remember this pastime, they always sing poetry of it. They sing the glories of Krishna. That how wonderful our Krishna is. That he not only displayed his prowess in killing such a deadly demon, but he also showed his mercy, how he liberated the Aghasura. And this is how once they were singing the poetry and singing the glories of Krishna. And then they were having lunch together. Now during this lunch, they were so sweetly exchanging their lunch boxes that this sight bewildered Lord Brahma. Why is that? One noteworthy thing here is that these sages and demigods, the goal of their yagnas, the goal of their sacrifices is that their sacrifice should be accepted by Krishna. That Krishna eats whatever they offer. And here is Krishna sitting with his friends and eating the remnants from the mouths of his friends. So much love in that exchange. And then Brahma is thinking, a god cannot be so ordinary. So this is how the bewilderment for Brahma starts. And now Brahma wants to show two things. One, he wants to show his own power, and then he wants to see the power of Krishna. So what he does, he lures the calves. So the boys, the Gopas, they're having the lunch with Krishna. So what Brahma does is, the calves that were tended by Krishna's friends and Krishna himself, he lures the calves away. And Krishna, he's eating yogurt, fruits, and a very, very soft chapati which Mother Yashoda has prepared for him. And there's a very interesting pastime behind this as well. One of Srila Prabhupada's first female disciple, when she read this pastime of Krishna, she was inspired to cook for Prabhupada. And she made the same preparation. And Prabhupada said, "What is this?" But she did not have any words for what this preparation is called. So she had to come up with something. So she said, "This is Krishna's surprise." Until date, this preparation became famous as Krishna's surprise. Now this Krishna's surprise, Krishna was holding in his hand, and then the Gopas become worried, where have all the calves gone? So Krishna says, "You keep eating, I'll go find the calves." Now this is showing how Krishna is so eager to serve his friends. He doesn't let them get up. He says, "You keep eating, I'll go and find the calves." Krishna is pretending here to find. He immediately knows this is Brahma, but he also has to lead Brahma into the pastime. So for this purpose, he goes and what happens when Krishna is going to find? Then Brahma takes away all those boys and hide them in the hides them in a cave, actually, his own cave. When Krishna comes back, he knows, okay, this is the doing of Brahma. And now immediately, all the friends of Krishna, all the calves that were stolen by Brahma, they all reappear in the same physical attributes, in the same characteristics, because Krishna has another project at hand. And what is that? That is to please the mothers of the Gopas and the calves. Now the Krishna's friends' mothers, there are some very unique characteristics about them. They love their children, and they love their children so much that nobody in the world could love them the way these Gopas' mothers loved them. But they loved Krishna more. Another aspect of these mothers was they were ecstatic at the good fortune of Mother Yashoda. That means there was no envy. So two characteristics here are really poignant in the mothers. One, they love their children so much, but they love Krishna more. So this shows the detachment in them. Two, they're ecstatic at the fortune of Mother Yashoda, but the innermost desire of their heart is to also serve Krishna. But this is without envy. So Krishna is so much looking forward to bringing that fulfillment for this desire in their heart. So Krishna manifests himself as his friends, his calves, and then surprisingly for a year, nobody suspects. Nobody suspects that they're calves. The cows don't suspect that these are actually not their calves. The mothers don't suspect that these are actually not our children. The only difference is now they love their children as much as they love Krishna. That's the only difference. And one day at Govardhan, somebody suspects, and that is Balaram. Why is that? When the calves were stolen, when this pastime had happened, that day it was Balaram's appearance day. So Balaram was kept at home by Mother Rohini, because she had to do certain sacrifices, she wanted to do charity, and she had to do Abhishekam of Balaram. So this is why Balaram did not know what had happened. And Balaram also did not suspect for a year. But then one day at Govardhan, the calves were so ecstatic to meet their mothers, these cows actually, they were so ecstatic, and Balaram thought this is quite unusual. And then he goes to Krishna, and Krishna explains very nicely what all had happened. And then Brahma comes, that it's been a year now let me see what's the effect of what I have done. And what he sees is, he looks towards the cave where he had kept all the boys. And he sees that all the boys are lying there. And then he looks at Vrindavan, and all the boys are also there. So he's like, wait a minute, what just happened? Similarly with all the cows. So he's so perplexed. And then he sees, the second vision that he sees is, he sees all the cows, all the boys, they manifest into Vishnu. So this is another thing that he sees, another bewilderment. And it's quite interesting to know that somebody who's the creator of these worlds, he becomes so paralyzed in bewilderment. And then he sees Krishna in his original form. He humbles himself, offers obeisances, prostrated obeisances, time and time and again. And then he realizes, he says that Krishna, in front of you I feel like a firefly, like a glowworm in front of sunlight. And even that little light which I have, that is by the grace of Krishna. So what does this reveal? That Krishna is revealing himself when you humble yourself, when you surrender to Krishna. That's when you begin to see Vrindavan, because this is what Lord Brahma sees next. He sees Vrindavan as it is. He sees that every stone in Vrindavan is actually a Chintamani stone. Every cow in Vrindavan is actually a Surabhi cow. Every tree is actually a Kalpavriksha, a wish-fulfilling tree. And so this is the lesson 1 minute earlier, he was thinking that he is the creator. And now when he humbles himself, surrenders to Krishna, the Vrindavan, Krishna, all of them become revealed. Another interesting pastime is, in this regard, we can also kind of almost juxtapose these two and see how when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is going through the Jharikanda forest, he induced the tigers, the deers, almost all the creatures in the forest to chant and dance. And when these creatures begin to chant and dance, the tiger is approaching a deer not to eat the deer. The deer, when is approached by the tiger, is not running away out of fear. In fact, they embrace each other. Tears are flowing from their eyes. Is this a usual sight? And why? Prabhupada says this. Why is this so unusual? And how is this possible? Because Krishna is in the center. Mahaprabhu is in center. Center of relationships. So when Krishna is in the center of our lives, center of our relationships, there is no envy. And when there's no envy, we begin to see Vrindavan as it is. Because then we turn into the well-wishers. We see how Srila Prabhupada wrote at the end of every letter, "Your ever well-wisher." Because Krishna is in the center for Prabhupada all the time. Even Krishna, so because we are talking how you turn into a well-wisher, is when you don't have envy in heart. So Krishna envies no one. So when we look at how Krishna is killing Aghasura and also liberating Aghasura, that's because he is well-wisher, even for Aghasura, even for Putana. And we can sometimes betray Krishna, betray Krishna's will, but he still remains our well-wisher. He doesn't leave us. He accompanies us in our heart as in the form of Paramatma. I'd like to conclude this session today by reading a purport by Srila Prabhupada. Now this purport and translation was recorded in Vrindavan when Prabhupada was about to depart from this world. So this is one of the last few translation and purports recorded because he was on bed, he was about to depart from this world, and this is in Vrindavan. And just now we saw how Mahaprabhu, when he's going to Jharikanda, and that pastime of how Krishna becomes revealed. So what does that mean to see Vrindavan as it is? So this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 13, verse 60. The translation is, Vrindavan is the transcendental abode of the Lord, where there is no hunger, anger, or thirst. Though naturally inimical, both human beings and fierce animals live there together in transcendental friendship. Purport. The word Van means forest. We are afraid of the forest and do not wish to go there. But in Vrindavan, the forest animals are as good as demigods, for they have no envy. Even in this material world, in the forest, the animals live together, and when they go to drink water, they do not attack anyone. Envy develops because of sense gratification. But in Vrindavan, there is no sense gratification, for the only aim is Krishna's satisfaction. Even in this material world, the animals in Vrindavan are not envious of the sadhus who live there. The sadhus keep cows and supply milk to the tigers, saying, "Come here and take a little milk." Thus envy and malice are unknown in Vrindavan. That is the difference between Vrindavan and the ordinary world. We are horrified to hear the name of Van, the forest, but in Vrindavan, there's no such horror. Everyone there is happy by pleasing Krishna. Krishnot kirtana gana nanartana paro. Whether a Goswami or a tiger or other ferocious animal, everyone's business is the same, to please Krishna. Even the tigers are also devotees. This is a specific qualification of Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, everyone's happy. The calf is happy, the cat is happy, the dog is happy, the man is happy, everyone. Everyone wants to serve Krishna in a different capacity, and thus there is no envy. One may sometimes think that monkeys in Vrindavan are envious because they cause mischief and steal food. But in Vrindavan, we find that the monkeys are allowed to take butter, which Krishna himself distributes. Krishna personally demonstrates that everyone has the right to live. This is Vrindavan life. Why should I live and you die? No, that is material life. The inhabitants of Vrindavan think, whatever is given by Krishna, let us divide it as prasad and eat. This mentality cannot appear all of a sudden, but it will gradually develop with Krishna consciousness. By sadhana, one can come to this platform. In the material world, one may collect funds all over the world in order to distribute food freely, yet those to whom the food is given may not even feel appreciative. The value of Krishna consciousness, however, will gradually be very much appreciated. For instance, in an article about the temple of the Hare Krishna movement in Durban, South Africa, the Durban Post reported, all the devotees here are very active in the service of Lord Krishna, and the results are obvious to see: happiness, good health, peace of mind, and the development of all good qualities. This is the nature of Vrindavan. Harav abhaktya kuto mahad guna. Without Krishna consciousness, happiness is impossible. One may struggle, but one cannot have happiness. We are therefore trying to give human society the opportunity for a life of happiness, good health, peace of mind, and all good qualities through God consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, everyone. Does anyone have any questions, comments, corrections? Sorry. So his question is why. Yeah. 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 Yeah, more on the platform of goodness, because even more virtuous, yes. So his question is why Yudhishthira was not chosen to give this message of Bhagavad Gita by Sri Krishna, even though he's so much virtuous. So I think I'm going to reiterate something, Prabhu, if you allow me. So when Arjun's father, King Pandu, he had desired sons. So his first desire was his eldest son should be virtuous, and that's why he invoked Dharmraj. For the second son, he wanted power, and hence he had invoked Lord Vayu. For the third son, he said, I want a son who is actually favored by God. And so he invoked Lord Indra. Now in many other pastimes, we see that whenever there is a struggle between demons and demigods, and Indra is actually most favored. So this is one reason. He wanted a son that was most favored. So that is going to be reflected even when Krishna is going to choose who to give Bhagavad Gita message to. Because this was a desire of Arjun's father, that this son should be favored. So again, Krishna is favoring Arjun over other sons. And second is, Arjun has exhibited a very devotional expertise symptoms. For instance, when he chose the army of Krishna over the army of Krishna. So this is, and Duryodhana on the other hand, he chose the army of Krishna because he thought that, okay, that will help me win this war. So it probably is the fact that that love. So even though the Yudhishthira is on the platform of virtue, but the friendship of Krishna and Arjun, that is something that's closer to Krishna's heart also. Yudhishthira is very, very dear to Krishna, but then again, probably it goes back to King Pandu's desire to have this son. And also we can look at Arjun as somebody who balances power and virtue. So virtue without power may not have helped them win the war. And power also, like vice versa. Right in the middle is Arjun, who is balancing between virtue and power with his devotion. which triumphs over every other attribute as we just saw. Does that make sense? Hare Krishna. Any more questions? Okay, thank you. We have Gora Arti at 7 p.m., so you can join in there. Hari Bol. Yeah. 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 Actually makes sense. Yeah. That when yeah, I get your point. When there are so many disturbances in Vrindavan all the time by the demons, one thing that I heard from His Holiness Keshav Maharaj was this, that Brajvasis, that means the residents of Vrindavan. So the meaning of Brajvasi is the one who is willing to move with the will of Krishna. Willing to move with the will of Krishna. Yeah, move with the will of Krishna. So probably one meaning of Vrindavan is wherever there is Krishna's happiness. In one of the past times, what happens is when there was so many attacks in the beginning, so they decided, the Brajvasis decided, we are going to move to Vrindavan. Why? Because not for themselves. They're thinking that all the time Krishna is being put into jeopardy by these demons. So for Krishna's protection, let's move further away and go to Vrindavan. Now this understanding, this love for Krishna is actually Vrindavan. Similarly, we can actually apply this into our life. When something is not conducive to our sadhana, when something is constantly disturbing for our spiritual practice, we can understand this is not taking me towards Krishna. This is jeopardizing the Krishna in my heart. So I'll move with the will of Krishna wherever there is Krishna, wherever there's Krishna safe and secure. Like that we can aspire to walk on the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. Does that make sense? Yeah, in one sense there's so many demons all the time. But yeah. 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 Right. Golok Vrindavan. Yeah. 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 Makes sense. Thank you for, yeah. That's true. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, also the resilience that comes from their devotion in heart. So even though they are constantly attacked, but their consciousness, their joy is not attacked. So there's this inner immunity in them. So there is this, on the surface, there are attacks by demons all the time in Vrindavan. But then their inner immunity is so much, that's because of their love for Krishna, that it's not hijacked by the demons from outside. Probably a lesson for us or something for us, a food for thought for us to kind of think in that direction, that Krishna consciousness doesn't mean that it's not going to rain, but we'll have the umbrella with us, that there'll be problems, but our inner immunity will not be hijacked if we reach that platform. All blissful. Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Thank you for adding that. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Any more questions, reflections? Okay. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. 7 p.m.
Oh, Prabhuji, maybe you can sing today. I sing, if I have to, but if you, or you can do the second half. Yeah, that's better. Shri Shri Radha Gokul Nand ki, Gaura Nitai ki. So we'll start the Gora Arti now. The wordings are on the top right hand side on the screen, and you can follow the lead singer. Thank you. Ki bajayo jayo Gora Chandere Arati ko sobha. Ki bajayo jayo Gora Chandere Arati ko sobha. Navitatawane Jagamanalobha. Navitatawane Jagamanalobha. Vasa Chatraധാരി